So most people think that great startup ideas happen by accident. And in some cases that can be very true, but that's for the extreme minority. But for the rest of us, we were all led to believe that, these ideas came to us when you were, just sat around, waited for a shower moment, and suddenly bam, right? You've got this multi-million dollar company idea in your head. But the problem is that relying on random inspiration is why most people spend months staring at a blank screen. Or worse, building products nobody actually wants. And this is a very, very big issue. Now, fortunately for all of us, the truth is that these ideas aren't these sort of magical sparks. So in this video, I want to show you that good ideas are the direct output of a well-designed system. I'm going to break down how to build an ideation system using a 6-stage framework that's designed to continuously generate high-value startup ideas for you and you alone. And I'll explain soon why these ideas have to be catered for only you. And also, how to use AI as a collaborator and thought partner to vet, refine, and execute on them before you waste a single line of code. So let's start with why most people get stuck. Because I think the core challenge is that people treat ideation as a sort of fleeting, mysterious event. And because they treat it like a feeling instead of a repeatable process, they can't generate those good ideas on demand. And that's sort of the crux of the challenge here. But why is fixing this sort of ideation bottleneck so critical right now? Because I think the entire landscape of building software is, shifting. What used to take a team of engineers and a designer a month to build as an MVP, obviously a solo builder now can build that over a single weekend. So execution is no longer the moat, right? The bottleneck is moved entirely to problem selection instead. So how do you choose the right problem to work on? So if you can generate and vet great ideas systematically, you'll be in such a better position than most people are, because you'll have more opportunities sort of to work on things that are fulfilling to you, which you could lead to more financial independence, freedom, and even sort of autonomy as well. But if you stick at the old mindset of waiting reactively for inspiration, I think you are going to get lapped by all the other builders out there who know how to generate and execute on these ideas. So how do most people try to solve this right now? Well, they usually fall into one of three traps. The first one is that they just wait for, inspiration, right? It works once in a while, but it's completely unpredictable. We already spoke about that group. The second group is those that are sort of jot down their thoughts on their phone, like Apple Notes, a Notion, or the thing is that there's no structure. And a month later, they're trying to reread an unstructured idea that they wrote down like months before, and they have zero context on what problem they were actually trying to solve in the first place. And trap number 3 is that they force the ideas into a vacuum, right? This means that they're setting aside an hour to sort of brainstorm out of nowhere. The issue with this is that it is completely disconnected from real world friction, because you end up building a solution that's separately searching, that's sort of like desperately searching for a problem. So ultimately, the best startup ideas don't come from inventing things out of thin air, right? They come from noticing real frustrations that people experience every single day. So here's step 1 of that 6-stage framework I mentioned earlier that can help you actually, to manufacture high value startup ideas on demand. So stage 1 is awareness, right? And you have to train yourself to notice friction all around you, because great business ideas hide in plain sight inside everyday frustrations. And if you train your brain to watch for 5 specific friction triggers, you should look for processes that are slow, opaque, expensive, fragmented, and even like universally hated as well. Because every time you say, why is this so annoying? Why do I have to do this manually? That's actually not a complaint. That's actually a potential product that you can use, right? Keep mindful and be aware of those questions that you keep asking yourself. Now, this is an interesting graph by John Rush that was shared with me probably, a year ago. It's a great example of how to apply ideation to your own problem, because the best ideas obviously come from your own personal issues, the challenges that you face, right? Whether it be at home, at work, things that you just experience on a day-to-day that we already spoke about. But there are other possibilities and alternatives as well. There's private life, other people's work, the life people that I know, right? Typically, they're not as good because you're simply just you're assuming the problems that they're experiencing. The ones that are really, really good, the best ones are pain, typically that you would experience, and then something to do with, your work personally. But there are also good ones as well. If you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you could potentially clone an idea, and then you can potentially seek out another niche out of that idea. It could be new geography, a new niche, a new use case, new pricing, right? But the worst ideas are the ones you just got off the internet, right? Someone posted something on LinkedIn or X and you thought, that's a good idea. Or you heard something from a YouTube channel about great business ideas. They may or may not work, but following this sort of flowchart really, really helps. Now, stage 2 is to track your ideas. This is really important because you need some sort of frictionless repository or like storage area to catch all the observations that you're seeing immediately without filtering them. Because unsorted ideas sitting in your head are basically, they create cognitive noise, right? So you want to find a way to store these ideas somewhere. So that's why, you can use hands-free voice notes like Whisperflow or, while you're walking, or, you can capture it like on Apple Notes, Google Drive, Notion, Obsidian, whatever it is, right? Doing this reduces that friction and easily allows you to dump ideas when you're on the go. Because when those ideas do come, you're going to be at work, you're going to be at school, at the gym, walking the dog, right? Going for a run, right? Those are the key moments when those ideas arrive. Now, once you've accumulated, let's say 15 to 20 observations and ideas in your notes, this is sort of the fun part where you can actually bring AI into the picture. Now, the whole point of bringing AI into all of this is to sort of add more color and more structure to your ideas, to synthesize your ideas, to find emerging patterns, because the whole point is not to invent ideas for you or replace you as the primary thought leader here, but as the strategic thought partner. So that's where AI becomes very, very useful. So speaking of AI, what I've done here is create a specific skill called ideation. And basically ideation does exactly what I just spoke about, where it captures unfiltered thoughts and sort of frictions along the way that you encounter. So you might have a laundry list of random ideas that you've come up with over the past week. You can then feed this into the skill and it will structure them in a very specific sort of way, right? So it basically uses this as a template, and it can use this as a way to identify the date, the industry, the pain point. So you can use the notes that you've created that are very, very unstructured, and you can feed this into that skill and it will auto-populate based on what it knows. And you should also provide an observation of your thoughts about the idea as well. And eventually what you'll have is a list of 20 ideas, for example, in one single file that are categorized and structured like this. And from that, you can feed that into an idea agent, which I'll explain, which I'll show you at the end of this video. Now, let's say your system surfaces an idea, right, that gets you, really, really hyped. Your AI partner was able to help you sift out the potential golden nugget of an idea, right? Let's assume that's the case. For most people, this is where it gets really tempting, right? This is where you want to buy a domain, right? This is where you want to start building. You want to open up Claude Code or Cursor and just start building right away. This is a mistake. You should force yourself into a mandatory, 72-hour to 7-day cooling off period. Basically, what this means is that you have to let the artificial dopamine high wear off completely. But if you're still obsessing over the problem a week later during your morning coffee, it might be worth exploring. But on the other hand, if you forget about it, you drop it, for example, and sort of it's out of sight, out of mind, you just saved yourself 3 months of wasted effort building an idea that you're not really excited about solving. So it's kind of a good way to have this cooling off period to begin with, because people can get so excited, they get so gung-ho about building that they'll just rush into it. So which is probably not the best move to make. Now, if an idea survives the cooling period, let's say it's past the cooling period, you're still excited about it after 72 hours, after 7 days, it's still on your mind, you're still thinking about it, The first one is urgency. And you have to sort of figure out, is this a hair on fire problem? Is this a painkiller that needs to be solved pronto? Or is this a nice to have vitamin, right? You don't really need it. It's nice to have, but you can't, doesn't really need to be solved. Building a painkiller is much more harder, but people will pay premiums for painkillers over vitamins. The second one is willingness to pay. Are potential users already spending time or money hacking together awkward workarounds, right? Now, if they're using like 50 tab spreadsheets or paying, virtual assistants to string tools together, that demand might be real, right? That could be a huge problem to solve if people are using fragmented tools to achieve one particular workflow, for example. And the third one is, why now? Like, what recent tech shift has there been? Have there been new technologies, new design frameworks, new patterns, new cultural shifts that are allowing this product to become more successful, or this idea to actually have legs? And I also want to touch on something called FMF, right? Founder market fit. Founder market fit is all about, does the problem you're trying to solve align with why you're the best person to solve this, right? This is a great post that someone put up on the Reddit page of Y Combinator. And it basically says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says, I see this every day and I feel like I must be missing something. Why do so many founders choose to work in fields where they have zero experience? You should work on something you have experience in. If you don't have experience in anything, use your personal interests to guide you and go get experience in that field. This is so, so important. And I've seen this so many times where people, they just go into an industry or they go into a vertical that they know nothing about because they've heard about it from their friends or on social media. And this is why I go back to the beginning of, you've got to find ideas suited for you. If this is something that you truly want to pursue, then you've got to stay in the game for a long time, right? And be able to outlast everyone who tries to enter this space. So if you know the problem intimately, it matters to you as well, and you have sort of this purpose to solve that problem, then I think that's the idea for you and you alone. So these are sort of the filters that you should ask yourself before you embark on a major project. And finally, once you've got your idea, you've vetted your idea, you think you've got something really, really good, it has legs, and you've definitely got some very early feedback about what this could potentially be. I think the next thing is just to keep exploring, right? I don't recommend building just yet. Just keep exploring, have AI as your collaborative partner. And what you can do with AI is that you can start to create these sort of agents for yourself that allow you to do market analysis, competitive research, customer interviews. You can build an agent to help you draft up customer interview questions, for example. You can do trends analysis. You can even pressure test your own hypothesis. And I think that's where it is really, really useful. So going back to GitHub, I've created another folder called Ideation. And inside Ideation, there's a whole bunch of files here called competitor analysis, customer discovery, market research, right? And if you go down to the README file, you'll be able to see a quick blurb on what of these agents actually do. And I think it's really helpful because you can go into, let's say, pressure test, for example. It will understand the problem you're trying to solve. You give it the problem, you give it the problem space or even the idea that you have, and you feed it into this prompt. And then you can sort of understand how to pressure test these ideas against assumptions that you already have. There are also other examples like, trends analysis. You can do pattern recognition. So if you have a list of 20 observations, you just feed it into this pattern recognizer, and it will try to sift out what are the patterns and anti-patterns across those ideas. There could be very, very different ideas, but you never know. You might be able to find some common thread between those ideas, and that could create a brand new idea that you would have never thought of, right? By synthesizing everything. So I think this is really, really useful. I've used this myself. It's definitely helped a lot. It's free. I'll put the link in the description below to the GitHub page. You can take a look at it. If you have any questions, reach out. But once you've done that, once you've been able to at least go through these agents, and this is sort of a workflow sequence that I have. Once you've gone through step 1 to 6 and you have some really, really solid evidence that this thing can work, then the next step is to build. So I think that So I'll stop there. I really hope you got some good value out of sort of the whole ideation process. I know this sounds long-winded, but it actually does compress everything, and you can do this in probably just an hour or two if you have some good sense of what idea you want to create. But ideation takes time, right? You can't fight ideation. But given where we are now, this is hopefully a good process, a good framework to help you better understand how to sift through your ideas and how to really flesh out the ideas that really matter. So if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one.